So when NCRI scheduled this event over a month ago, no one could have predicted that it would occur against the backdrop of the toppling of the despised Assad dictatorship, an event that sets the stage for confronting the mullahs on their home turf, a unique inflection point. You know, there's been a cottage industry in Washington to promote the goals and objectives of this dreaded regime. They hide behind think tanks, and some of them essentially decry the NCRI and say that it doesn't have the support. They even parade the young Shah, the pretender to the throne, around as if he somehow or other is the answer, the proper response to the Iranian people. You saw here that there were Democratic senators who came to say to you, we don't buy this. We see a coalition of hundreds of thousands of Iranian leaders around the world who've been inspired by Madame Rajavi and by the NCRI. I didn't come to do this because of any reason other than the fact that I deeply care for the Iranian people.
Syria represents a great opportunity, but we need to be patient and we need to be strategic. First and foremost, as a member of the U.S. Senate, we have to protect our troops who are in the region. Secondly, we have to prevent Iran from doing what it does all around the world. If it can't be on the forefront as they were with the Assad regime, then they'll just resort to their terrorist tactics that they've metastasized throughout the globe. We need to hold them accountable. This is not a time to accommodate Iran. This is time to step up the pressure. This is a historic opportunity to hopefully lay the groundwork for a peaceful and democratic Syria, but along with it, a peaceful and democratic Iran. And you can count me in for getting more co-sponsors on 599 and making sure that the American people stand with those who want a free, modern, and safe and proud country called the country of Iran that every one of you want to be from and for.
And we want to see Iran be next in terms of overthrowing. And as all of you know, Iran has been dealt a significant blow. The leadership in the country is on their back feet. The events in Syria demonstrate the fundamental weakness at the core of Iran's regional strategic policies. And I don't think anyone here is surprised by that, because you've been fighting that for many of you your entire lives. Today, what we're seeing in the Middle East is that Iran is projecting only weakness. Now is the time to think about how we invest more in the core values that we all share, of democracy, of human rights, of justice for everyone.
And I will tell you what, the results on Election Day, November 2024, were consequential for the United States, and they were consequential for the world. But there is nobody on planet Earth who had a worse day on Election Day than the Ayatollah Khamenei. And I will tell you, the Ayatollah is shaking in terror. We will return on January 20th to a maximum pressure policy. We will cut off this cruel and oppressive regime from resources from every direction possible. That includes vigorously imposing sanctions. That includes using every tool we have to shut down the nuclear research facilities, including the research facility in Fordow. and we are going to cut off their oil. The Ayatollah is in panic because revenue for the regime is about to disappear. Not only that, but Iran's proxies, from Hamas to Hezbollah to Bashar Assad in Syria, have all utterly collapsed. Iran is weak. They are scared. And I will tell you, I, for one, have for a long time been quite willing to call unequivocally for regime change in Iran. The Ayatollah will fall. The mullahs will fall. And we will see free and democratic elections in Iran. And as the men and women here know full well, it is the people of Iran who have suffered so viciously under this cruel and tyrannical regime. Freedom is coming, and it can come with a speed that can astonish almost everyone. Just ask Bashar Assad.
And we know, as Iran is the #1 exporter of global terrorism and violence and killing, that they export anti-democratic, vicious ideals, that we are not safe, that our cause is the Iranian people's cause, that injustice in that country upsets the global order. We have an urgent obligation now to stand together, not just as Americans, but stand together with global allies in making sure that this regime's suppression of its own people comes to an end. That we And so I am excited because my brothers and sisters who are in this room, the folks who have helped me and my office in so many ways, make sure that not just in the Democratic Party, but in the United States Senate, in a bipartisan way, we stand with the people of Iran. We stand with the ideals of justice.
The good news is the world is actually changing. And when you see what happened just recently in the past week with Syria, and the breakdown of what was going on and what was happening with Syria, and that would see what's happening with Iran. And I noticed that the great Senator Cruz has come in, and so I'm going to really abbreviate my comments. But in the past week, in the past months, we're starting to see a change in the world, and it's a change for the better. And I think we should know that. So the path forward, constant pressure on the Iranian regime. I think we do that politically.
So this week we've witnessed yet another tectonic shift in the Syrian government. We'll wait and see what that means. But what it should mean to the people of Iran is that change is, in fact, possible in the Middle East. You may have to wait for it, but it will come. And I think that if I were a citizen of Iran in opposition to the regime, I would be very encouraged today to know that this is, in fact, possible. Last year in Paris and in Berlin, we saw a powerful demonstration of support and intent by United States, Canadian, and European nations. In Paris, all the while in Berlin, 50,000 people marched in support of the NCRI, Mrs. Rajavi's leadership. Today we meet to recommit to the idea that, as in Syria, change is also coming to Iran. A clear democratic change based on Mrs. Rajavi's 10 points, which I've always labeled as Jeffersonian in principle. So what should we do in 2005? One, I would say continue the education
of the American media and the American public with regard to the NCRI.
It's not only now or never, it's now or nuclear. Either we will see a different regime in Iran shortly, soon, or we will be facing a nuclear Iran. And they've learned the lessons from North Korea and the Kim regime that the way to hold the whole world off is to go nuclear. You got to have the bomb. And once you have the bomb, everybody kind of backs off from you. They leave you alone. And we are now on the decision-making moment of what it will be like in the Middle East. Will you have a different, peaceful, democratic regime in Iran, or will you face a nuclearized, theocratic regime in Tehran whose theology supports the use of the bomb? They supported Lech Walesa and the leadership that he gave at that point in time. They publicly, privately, they supported it in many different ways, that changing of regimes in Poland. We need to do the same thing this time around. We need to do it now, supporting the people like MEK, other groups that are opposed to this regime in Iran. So, stated clearly, the Maximum Pressure Campaign 2.0 must include a political pressure component, supporting the protesters, calling for an end to the dictators in Tehran.
Yemen's suffering is not merely a tragedy. It is the deliberate result of Iran's support for chaos and regional instability. For more than 10 years, Iran has financed and armed the Houthi terrorist group, providing them with lethal weapons to destabilize Yemen and threaten international shipping lane in the Red Sea. Tragically, Iran's support has enabled the Houthis to become a menace not only to Yemen but to the region and the world. The Red Sea is a critical commercial shipping corridor that handles 10% of global trade and over 30% of annual cargo shipping. The U.S. alone spends so much in the billions defending attacks that the Iranian regime spends so little on. I'm afraid this is the only way. Diplomacy alone does not work with the Iranian regimes and their proxies. We have tried it for so many years. Peace through strength works. And I hope and I'm confident that one day the Yemeni people and the Iranian people would be able to free themselves from the tyranny of the Iranian regimes and their proxies.
We must support the people of Iran and neutralize this current regime. The second strategic imperative: generating peace across planet Earth will not occur until we find ways to allow for a peaceful Middle East. And peace in the Middle East will be achieved via a free and democratic Republic of Iran. And this group, at all levels, represents the cause that we must embrace to succeed. The global awareness of those two strategic imperatives must be proliferated. And we can do that together by gatherings such as this and getting the word out, as General Jones talked about, amongst the staffers that represent our United States Congress.